Awesome. We should be live. Hello, everybody tuning in to another episode of ComCom. Sweet. So yeah, everybody, if you haven't already, I'm going to drop the meeting minutes link in the chat there. Feel free to throw your name in if you are present. And we will kick it off with our agenda over here, starting out with initiative updates. This is issue number 476 in the community committee repo. But first and foremost, agenda updates. Let's start at the top with I18N. Ben, how you doing?
You're muted, Ben.
Hello, everyone. Good Thursday morning on the West Coast, I suppose. Not in other places. So yes, internationalization. We are currently we have a doodle out. We're going to do a breakout session here with website Redesign soon, within the next couple weeks, and start to facilitate what we need to internationalize things like node.js.dev and our docs and that sort of thing. So providing the necessary infrastructure for that, and we're excited to push that out.
Awesome, psyched for that. Let's grab a mentorship update from Dan Shaw or Ahmad.
So it's going to have to come from, is Ahmad away?
We have a different Ahmad on the call now too, so I don't think we have mentorship Ahmad.
Okay. Akbik Bame doesn't appear to be on. I've stepped back from active engagement with mentorship, so I cannot share mentorship. I can share user feedback.
Awesome, let's do that. I'm going to open up a stub issue to remove you from co-chair on the README, so I stop calling your name out every time.
Oh, nice. Okay, yes, that is totally appropriate. Yeah, with this, the cohort that is kicking off, my sort of supporting Ahmed and getting him to being a fully functional lead there is complete, and that mentorship that I facilitated is done. Yay. All right, so user feedback. Today at GitHub in San Francisco, we are having our first pilot user feedback session aligned with our releases. So we're looking at current, so April-ish timeframe, current release and LTS release as being two major points in the year where we want to engage the ecosystem and just let folks know what's going on, what's changing. So James now will be joining us, giving an updater about the version 12 release, and I'll be following up that with some user feedback questions. And Tracy Lee has been, the Node.js Foundation have been helping us build out relationships and set up meetings with our meetups from around the world. So the program that we're building can then be run by our meetup leaders. So I'm very excited about that effort. I'm very happy with how that's coming together.
Awesome. That's great. And Giri actually popped into an outreach meeting a little bit ago saying there might be some crossover that we might want to chat about with outreach. It's a good segue into Ahmad. You want to give a quick update on progress with outreach and what we chatted about a couple days ago?
Yeah, so we are currently working on, in the last meeting, we were trying to, bring the meetup.com folks to offer us some sort of non-profit pricing. Sadly, that didn't work out very well, and they have some sort of, they have deprecated those pricing. And actually, Adam is actually still talking to folks from there. And then we discussed the idea of how, since the pricing is going to be huge, and I don't want to ask for 250,000 for per year for just meetups, but that actually led to another idea where we are exploring how about statewide or countrywide meetups where different meetup groups would just come and, have some sort of, showcase. Okay, so we have this particular meetup with Node.js, but we are focused on Vue or React, and, join us on that particular single meetup, which are going to be very less, like at the very most, they are going to be 200 meetups throughout the world. So we are just playing around with that idea while we are still talking to the folks at meetup.com to, maybe sponsor us in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And Maida has actually started working on building consistent community page or whatnot. So we are exploring that side as well. So that's it from the upgrades.
Awesome. Yeah. So for a little extra context, since it's a new initiative, we're looking at tracking community meetups and being able to up-level them and show them on both the website and potentially through a joint meetup.com account. WordPress is a great example of this succeeding tremendously, but WordPress was kind of grandfathered into a different pricing model for meetup.com. So barring us getting access to that, we might have to come up with a different structure to organize tracking meetups, or go with another tool at the end of the day. So we'll see where that evolves. Awesome. And I believe last but not least, website redesign. I did not make it to the last one since I've been on vacation the past week and a half. So Manil, do you want to give an update there?
I'm muted. Hello.
There we go.
We have a pretty light update from website redesign. Last week we had a meeting that touched on 3 main points, of which I'll give updates for 2. We have a new person joining, Oscar, who Adam has helped bring on board to the project, who's helping us design the website redesign project. So we went through a form that Oscar put together for figuring out what people want from the site as a whole. And we talked about how we're going to get analytics to help support the best flows on our website. So Oscar has a couple of to-dos that he went off to deal with. Following that, we also talked about what Ben mentioned earlier about figuring out how the API documentation will be consumed and how that will become localized through IATNN. That's a work in progress, and I think we'll have a spin-off meeting for that and other related items in probably 2 weeks or so, if people have the bandwidth. That's all.
Awesome. Okay, before we...
unrelated to website redesign, but related to an update. Is now a better time to ask that question?
Yeah, I was about to say, before we dive in to our agenda, any other updates? Our spectacularly light agenda today. Do we have any other updates from across the project?
I want to ask a question about the user feedback initiative. There was a thread that Lady Lee created, I think a while ago, where a couple meetups said that they'd be able to do sessions at their local meetup. So Dan mentioned that San Francisco is doing one this week. Next week, there is a meetup in Vancouver for a Node.js group, and it's possible to do another one of those sessions there. I'm not sure exactly what resources I can use to do a session. I believe there was discussion of having some slides available. Would any of those resources be ready or available to use?
Dan,
yes.
There we go.
So there's a forcing function for that. We should have that deck final. So that will be ready for you. Do you know the link to that deck? No,
I don't think so. I wasn't able to find that
pull that up. Okay. I'll have to pull that up, and shoot that over to you. There's a shared deck in the user feedback repo that you can leverage.
Super. That is awesome.
Yeah, we have a whole program associated with it, and the user feedback steps are detailed there too.
That is super. So it's basically standardized then by what you're looking for in the initiative.
So the user feedback part is the inputs in terms of what we're sort of collaborating with the core developers for what's in a release and how we sort of share that out. Not yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fairly straightforward. What we've been doing version release updates for almost a decade now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, it sounds like there'll be resources for you to use there. Manil, we'll let you chat about that offline, or Dan,
Yep.
if you just want to pull the thread on GitHub, that'll probably work too. Yeah,
Great.
if you want to drop a link in the chat, that would probably be good for all of us to be aware of where that deck lives, in case we have other opportunities to visit our respective communities.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Right.
Anything else to announce before we go through the list? Take the silence as a resounding no. Moving right along. First issue on our 2-issue agenda here is issue number 470, and this is just mostly an announcement issue. This was the stub issue for the CPC representative nominations and election. The election closed on Monday, and I'd love to announce that Joe Seppi has been elected as our CPC voting representative. So congrats, Joe. Awesome.
Congratulations.
We expect the celebration party at your new house.
Yep, 2 weeks we close.
So it's a pool party, right?
Yep, it is. It's gonna be great.
Let's do it.
Thanks everyone. I'm surprised but happy and make everyone proud, and we'll do good stuff.
We are looking forward to seeing this thing take off. So related to that, I wanted to drop in and a kind of just admin announcement / update / just draw your attention to it. I created a project board because it was getting a little hard to track governance updates in our repo. There's a number of tickets floating around. Some of them nice to have, some of them must do's for the new move to the OpenJS Foundation. Just dropped a link in there. It's the first project board in our repo. And we need a few more stub tickets out here. I couldn't find the issue that Dawson opened up concerning governance changes related to move over to OpenJS. Also listed in here is this ticket, which is why it's a good jump off point. But presumably once all these tickets are moved over to the done column, we will have updated our governance to reflect the new foundation structure. The should do's are just like kind of nice to haves if we, as we get to them. The must do's are what we have to do in order to be kind of compliant with the new foundation structure. I threw this together like an hour ago just because I wanted a better way to track it. If there's stuff missing, throw it in as tickets on the board. If you see stuff you want to take up, assign it to yourself and move it to in progress. Anything that we require approval for before landing, of which I believe that's still anything to our charter or our main governance document, do not merge them in, pull them into awaiting approval. For smaller stuff that's more procedural, once you get the approvals, pull them from in progress to done after you merge. I tried to set up automation. Oh, go for it, Tracy.
No, I was just thinking as you said that whether our charters need to, I'm wondering whether the board is supposed to approve our charter changes moving forward or the CPC.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, it's the CPC. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I just need to see what we wrote in the CPC the docs. We need to go back through that, so it might be a to-do because I'm just thinking I can't remember whether I think the language is that, yeah, Tierney, I think that's right. I think the language is that the board agreed to, I would have to look into it, but I think that we sort of agreed that the CPC could be responsible, like board is ultimately responsible for some of these, like the charters, because it's legalese, but that they defer or delegate that work to the CPC specifically. So, because it doesn't make sense. This is exactly the kind of thing that the board doesn't actually want input on, but just needs oversight on. So the CPC is poised to do that.
Yep. We also have a fun position we're in right now where the CPC hasn't met yet, because we're still, electing representatives to it across the project. So stuff might be chilling out there for a while until they meet and get a chance to kind of vote in changes. But doesn't mean we can't start drafting language now, that's for sure. Cool. So that's all I had on that matter. Anything else kind of CPC or OpenJS related before we go back to this recurring collab summit ticket? Awesome. Cool. So next issue on this list is 448. This is the recurring collab summit process. This should honestly probably just be part of our updates at the beginning of the meeting. Manil, I believe you still have most context on this. You want to give an update on how collab summits go?
Sure. On the numbers, we have, first things first, maybe folks don't know, so I'll just give the full update. We have a venue set. It's going to be in downtown Berlin. So it's all ready to go. There are 4 rooms waiting for us for 2 days, and there's plenty of agenda time. So we are still accepting proposals for sessions. There's plenty of agenda time. If your initiative or working group has not signed up for a session yet, please do. Right now, it's mostly all Node.js sessions, but as y'all may know, this is our first time doing the Collab Summit with the entire OpenJS Foundation, so there will be other projects. So it won't just be Node.js, which is super cool. Lots of new people hopefully will be there, hopefully. Right now, the number of signups are at 50. I think that's pretty par for the course, 1 month out for us. Like, folks tend to sign up last minute. But on the organizing team, I think the JSF is also wondering, we expected 100 people, so the booking is for 100 people. I think folks in the JSF are wondering if we need to be making one last push to get more people to sign up, get their registration up. So I was thinking about going around through all our repos and opening a new issue, asking people to sign up and or apply for the travel fund. Just like before, we do have a travel fund, and it is primarily being used for the Collab Summit. So please do apply for a travel fund if you have not done so yet. We have a form for signing up. There's a hand. Oh, Waleed. Hey, Waleed.
Got it.
We have a form for submitting proposals for sessions. That is unusual. Before, we did only through GitHub issues, but we also are able to accept them through issues. And there is a template for making a session proposal through GitHub. So please use either or. If you do make one in GitHub, it will be mirrored in the spreadsheet that all the form submissions go into, because that's considered the source of truth now. It has a little bit more detail, but don't let the lack of detail stop you from making a proposal. If you want to make one, you can always fill it in later. Collab summits have been pretty spur of the moment, as far as I remember from the previous ones. Questions, folks?
I'm psyched for it. I can't wait to see all the sessions for the other projects as well.
Yeah, less than a month at this point. Oh
my God.
Yeah, about that, I'll submit a session about Node.js collection on Medium and social media. I had a meeting with Rachel last week, so we discussed a few topics which we can discuss. She'll probably join remotely, but yeah, hopefully it will be good.
Super.
Awesome. Yeah, and just as on that note, I repinged Rachel and some of the social folk, or foundation folks, about it's a couple stub tickets open in the ComCom repo for kind of federated access to social media accounts and accepting community submissions for tweets to broadcast out. So we're that ball was kind of dropped on there with the staffing changes in the foundation, and we're just pushing that a little bit to get that thread running again.
Is that referring to the committee that they were trying to? Because I know that they were trying to work on building a committee of people that can help work on the social media stuff without it being federated necessarily.
Yeah, well, the Sprout Social access and the committee to help share access a bit. So just as an update, we're getting that moving again.
With that, there is one kind of interesting development that. Do we care if we talk about that for a minute, or am I sad? Okay.
So we're officially done with the agenda, so we can use the last half hour to talk shop. The only other thing I was maybe going to bring up is issue 475, your who uses Node.js issue. So, but no, we're fully in shop talk time.
So one, I do want to bring up something on that. I'm trying to find it. Gregor, I don't know his last name. He used to be community committee member, G2RM. Sorry, I'm trying to find the repo. He's made something rather interesting. I'll just look at his GitHub. He's made something rather interesting. It's effectively a bot, kind of, that uses GitHub Actions, and then it integrates with Twitter. So it effectively allows you to manage a Twitter account from GitHub, Jar2M, which I think is especially relevant for us. And I think that might be a good way for us to kind of possibly approach this in a way that's kind of auditable and allows us as a community kind of engage with it in a way that we've very vocally kind of accepted as our main communication method, which is GitHub.
I would again disagree with that, because part of the foundation team, we've had this discussion before related to other tooling, that we can't have GitHub be the only medium from which we like manage things for that reason. Because so, yeah, I mean, I would say if all of the hiring that we do for people who assist us at the foundation, if one of their skill requirements is like, you know, fluency in GitHub, I would say that would make sense. But I think that's a part of this conversation that we would have to revisit.
Looking at the tool, I think, Tierney, correct me if I'm wrong, this would be supplemental to, you know, logging into the Twitter account and managing it manually. It looks like, from reading the README, like you merge in any other PR, and once it gets approved and merged in using GitHub's authoring tools, like it gets tweeted out basically. You get so kind of community approval of tweets and then automatic tweeting once it's in the tool that we use.
So it's more of a way for us to be familiar. It wouldn't limit how they do it at all. Like they still have access to do Sprout Social, which I know they use, or normal Twitter. It's more of like a way for us to use the tools we're familiar with to engage with this, but they don't, if they wanted to come participate in it in that way, they could. They have by no means have to.
Sure, yeah. But then that's also another layer of coordination to make sure that you don't have
tweets going out at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if we could just, you know, if the champion for that group would know how GitHub works, that he could or she could, you know, they could handle everything related to what is going to be the next tweet in a PR. Whereas the entire other group would just have to use whatever they use.
Yeah, this may also be like good feature requests for the tool. Like if we need tweet scheduling, or if we need you know, an assurance that we don't merge 3 PRs and 3 tweets go out, like that seems like something they might be interested in adding.
So I think more what Tracy was getting at is like, we're not competing. Basically, the link, not the LinkedIn team,
you have 2 different feeds. Yeah.
The foundation team uses Sprout Social already for scheduling, and so that way you make sure you're not doing like 6 tweets. I mean, like, I guess 2 is probably the most because I think we'd both be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
But like, you don't want 2 tweets going out about, you know, different things at the same time, roughly, just so you're not getting annoying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
think
I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I think it's that, okay, so the point of the social team at the foundation having overseen like who has access to the account was not for like trying to make it gated and that the project members could not contribute. It was because it is an incredibly high level of exposure, what that Twitter account reaches, and to make sure that we are still presenting as a fairly polished messaging, right? So coordinating all of that and collaborating so that we have a single like unified voice is something obviously we have not done well, because there are a lot of people on the project side who feel that the voice that's represented currently with our Twitter account is not as accurate as it could be, right? It doesn't feel as genuine. But I think the tool does not answer that question, does not solve that problem. So I'm saying like, yes, I think I think my messaging is not clear here, is that I think the GitHub tool sounds cool, but that it does not solve the problem around the voice issue with our Twitter account. Because there still has to be cohesion and collaboration with the people who are using that tool in GitHub and the social team at the foundation, because we do have a heightened level of responsibility to what is going out, even in on the GitHub tooling side. And so I don't know, like, I would be interested to see, because I would ask, I think I would require here some requirements for the GitHub tool, right? That it's not whoever wants, right? We wouldn't do it that way anyway. I think we know better. That like whoever wants, right? There's got to be +1s on what the messaging is, what the schedule is, what we're talking about in those tweets. There is overhead that ends up being created in order to, and that's not a bad thing, in order to open it up to more people on the project side.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I would like to agree with what you are saying. I think it would also help to, help the social community team as well. For example, since I have not really, data mined the Twitter account of Node.js Foundation, but most of the content that goes out through that account is related to developers, and developers have mostly something to share, and they're very convenient. They can very conveniently, file an issue on that particular GitHub repo to be considered for something that could be tweeted. So, getting a feed of content, interesting feed of content that is not going to be, essentially going to be tweeted out without that we have processed. But having that feed would actually help keep the size of teams small, and their, duties. They would be able to manage that thing better instead of trying to just, wend around what kind of content is to get that content feed from wherever.
So to help, sorry, go for it.
Sorry, yeah, I think that was one of the reason the Rachel and that she wanted to have some people like the social media chair people, so that they can feed the social media person with content and suggest them a list of like articles, blogs, and whatever they want to suggest, and then we'll have enough things to post on
so
social media. So that was the reason. Yep.
We have a fairly functional, there's always room for improvement, but there's a fairly functional model for this with the Medium account. Medium allows acceptance of community contributions, which helps gives that authentic developer voice. We have a group of people who are there to edit and make sure that it's actually accurate. And we have editors on the Linux Foundation side or the OpenJS Foundation side to make sure that the voice of the article is appropriate. And we kind of need those same avenues for social accounts. Like we need community contributions, we need a panel of people in the project for feedback, and we need somebody whose specialty is social media management to make sure it's appropriate for the account. So this tool might be good as one of the tools in the toolbox, and we should see if it can be integrated probably. Since it is very good for that, you can't solicit, other than saying, hey, tweet at this account, we might retweet you. You can't solicit content from the community currently. So if this tool can maybe be tweak to, instead of automatically tweeting, maybe add it to the drafts, the tweet drafts, and that becomes the feed of stuff that's potential content. I don't know if that integration is possible, but
interesting.
it might be an interesting approach.
Yeah, that's a good idea to bring that, to
yeah.
transfer over the editor idea from that from the Medium stuff to the Twitter account. I do agree. I think it's that something that we're missing here is that while the developers are the subject matter experts that feed the content, I absolutely agree. Like, we want organic. This is what's trending right now. This is what's interesting to us. But on like the professional side, for those who are really good at social media marketing, they're working and helping us develop cohesion in our messaging and helping us keep that voice strong. And so it's important to make sure that we include them as not only part of the process, maybe sort of like project managing that process, because they help keep our, they help keep us of quality. So yeah, I think that it would be interesting to hear from them if they would be interested in us applying that approach to like the GitHub, like Twitter drafts. That's a good, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll keep fleshing out the committee idea for social. Like I'm hoping to get that, and Wally, maybe you can help out too to help keep momentum going. It would be great to see this thing spin up before end of year. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, Tierney, if you want to actually drop a link to that tool in one of the conversation threads, one of the two issues open. Like I'd love to keep that as an option for a tool in the toolbox for getting this thing going. I think it's going to be a matter of like getting a committee together for it, finding out what process works best, and we're like, just like how we've been iterating on the Medium process, like we're gonna have to do that for Twitter too. Yeah, that would be awesome.
So a question here. I'm not so sure how you folks do about how you do that Medium process. Can you tell me about it? Because I have worked with SitePoint, and all of their authors are actually on GitHub, and they manage all of that, the suggestions, feedback, and everything on GitHub. That is a very good model, and we do too at on my personal blog as well.
Yeah.
How do you folks do it?
This is actually something else I wanted to talk about as kind of a higher level conversation. The current Medium the current Medium process doesn't really have a home right now. It's listed as an initiative, the Node.js collection in our README, and it has a repo, but it's largely managed in email and by a single foundation contact who helps to drive it. Yeah. So I'm going to drop a link to the Node.js collection repo here in the chat. So we have a Medium account. We publish long form content there. People are able to submit articles to our collection, I believe either through Medium or by an email alias we have set up. We got a lot of content, a decent amount of content through the Medium email alias. There's a group of volunteers in the project who are kind of signed up as editors for that. So they see all the content that comes through. The whole thing gets copy pasted into a Google Doc for feedback and editing, since Medium's like collaborative feedback process is not conducive to having a bunch of people pile on. But then once it's edited and we have feedback for the author, if they update it with that feedback, or we get a yay nay from a technical perspective from the volunteers, then it's pulled into the Node.js collection on Medium, published in this joint publication. Author gets attribution, and it's out there for the world to see, and all of the Medium followers that we have. That's the process as it is right now. There's I've noticed a few problems with volunteer engagement for editing, and for rapid response times and visibility of submissions on the email alias. So there's obviously room for improvement, and possibly giving the Node.js collection a home in a like an active initiative would help with that, help give it visibility and help give it an active volunteer base. So
since we already manage everything on GitHub, I don't know if they would be open to the idea of managing it on GitHub, but just like I mentioned, SitePoint and many other huge blogging engines actually do that on GitHub. They have a simple project setup. a Kanban board with to-do, being reviewed. So it's quite transparent. And it's, for example, with SitePoint, they actually just want one single review of an article, but what happens is most of the times there are more than single reviews because the whole process is quite transparent, and many other authors, out of their love to labor of love and whatnot, they end up reviewing the article and contribute to that.
I think for me, it's that I found I have Medium. I'm on the fence about in terms of the model that they're moving to, but in terms of editing and draft and being able to work as a group to approve, especially when it's incredibly high profile things that can't be public before they are being discussed, then we would also have to split into private repos in order to do that. I prefer the Medium workflow that we have, and I also worry about, because this is a process that is owned by our foundation folks, to dictate the tooling that they prefer to use when it's something that there is easier for them to use is a little tough. I get the want to use GitHub, but I don't think it's good. It's the best tool for everything. And in this case, I don't think it is, but it's one opinion.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we should do all of that on GitHub. I'm saying just we could manage things on GitHub. That what is who is working on something and what is being worked on. Instead of doing that, the entire process should stay where it is.
Yeah, but then you're splitting the process between two different tools.
Yeah, I'm inclined. There may be a case to be made for having another submission stream through GitHub, and then we take it private for editing and feedback and discussion on it before coming forward again and publishing it. But for what we're trying to accomplish with the Medium publication, like the right place to collaborate on a document as you're editing it is probably Google Docs. Like it's what it was made for, and you get finer grained access controls too, which is helpful. So I think for the Medium use case, the process set up there, the two major issues I see right now are like emails get lost and people forget to go review things. So you have editors on the mailing list that don't go in and tweak things in a timely manner, and so you just get stagnated articles piling up. And there's not always an immediate response to a submission email, and people submitting get frustrated because of lack of visibility into the process. Otherwise, like the editing flow, and also volunteer recruitment for editors. Like it'd be better to have more people's eyes on it in the project. Those are the three issues. I don't know if that I see, at least. I don't know if GitHub as a tool to manage article submissions would necessarily fix those any better than tweaking the current process. And it may actually introduce more hurdles for management at the end of the day because of how document editing workflows actually go and privacy works. So you'd be splitting the stream, like Tracy said.
Well, and also there's the fact that Medium is a platform. So it is the network that we've built up and the exposure that we have. So again, we would be working in another tool and then using that for publishing. It's fine. It's just, another. But yeah, I mean, we could certainly there's a limitation to the number of people who can edit or provide input if it's a closed group of editors instead of essentially whoever's available.
I think it only really makes sense if we someday move away from Medium and build some sort of a theme around GitHub.
Yeah.
but that would be,
that would be pretty big. I'd also be a strong -1 on managing our own blog service. There's huge benefits to going through a service provider for blogging, and Medium does a lot to, like, we appear in people's inboxes. We don't have to manage email. If somebody subscribes to the publication, they get it automatically in their inbox. We get upsells and related articles. We have subscribers who can go and take a look anytime they want with the rest of their Medium articles. And like, we don't want to build that infrastructure or make choices around how to do that right now. Like, we don't quite have the bandwidth.
And also I should, again, with GitHub, I think this is also skewed towards our personal experiences. Not all of the Node project lives in GitHub. There are plenty of people who contribute to Node and OpenJS who are in corporate settings that they are not allowed to use GitHub. So they are not as practiced as using it. They are aware of how to use it, but it is not something that's necessarily habit. And especially when it comes to writing and reading articles, that is a very different thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'd be possibly +1 for getting a new submission stream through GitHub.
Yeah.
But like as far as editing and publishing goes, like that would be a rough sell. I think.
Well, better documentation, like as you said,
yeah. Oh my God.
way better. GitHub can be the place to say, like, for people in the project who are looking or people who live in GitHub, they can absolutely discover the node collection program and process through that. Like, we should have better documentation for that. It should not be a single contact. It should be more people. We should have the editors listed. We should have the ability to sign up easily, like make it well known.
But
yeah, and I'm not like, sorry, go for it.
But is there one single, like, Trello board or a Kanban bird's eye view thingy for Node.js collection where one could, join and see what is going on and be, motivated to help out?
Yeah, that doesn't exist as far as I know, other than a bunch of emails that you have to be requested as a collaborator to be put on.
There was a list, a Google Sheet we maintain with all the articles and the reviews, like which date to publish, when it was submitted, everything, and is it approved or not. But we stopped using that a few months ago. GB left, and up till now there's no defined process. But I think Rachel and the other guy from social media team are currently working on improving the process and everything.
Yeah,
so,
even if we don't use GitHub, we could use something like Trello, and it is not really, compulsory to have the content there. We could just have the, document link with the right privacy for the right people to see. But for someone like me who's interested in, joining the Node.js collection and helping out with whatever time I have left, to help out, it would be very awesome to see what the process is like, what everyone is working on, what we have in the, feed to be reviewed, maybe I could end up reviewing it instead of, actually committing to it through emails and everything.
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot of process improvements. Hey, maybe having a project board like that in either the Node.js collection repo or maybe a collaborators only repo for visibility. Just of a list of articles in the Google Doc where it's being edited. Might be a good
Yeah, but again, I don't know. I'd be interested to see if there's a time where we can't have everything showing.
Yeah.
Not everything can be public ahead of time. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think, yeah.
No, the privacy should or might be handled through Google Docs. So only people who should be looking at that document should have the access to it. But having that link in the public does not really hurt anyone.
Yeah. It would just also potentially have to have, like, code names for our titles of articles. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're clicking on links that you can't, that are blocked. So yeah, it's also like a user experience thing. I don't know how that,
Yeah. Well, I think probably something for a social spin out meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure they would love input though. Like I think they are excited for people to help. So.
Well, let's get this on an agenda somewhere. Like we just talk shop on it for 10 minutes. I'd say it's well worth pounding out.
I've also added all these topics in the collaborative summit this proposal, so we'll also have a chance to discuss all these things there. Awesome. And yeah, definitely there should be, we can create an issue also to discuss more about this.
Yeah, Waleed, I'm looking forward to the Collab Summit discussion.
Yeah, I would say so. For some of these things, it's good to remember as well that if there is someone on the foundation side that's been helping to coordinate this, you may want to ask them if they're available to call in for that meeting, because otherwise you don't have a whole picture, or like may not be able to move forward as quickly if you are missing an important person in the room. I mean, it's the same for any of the Collab Summit meetings that we're intending. We should, especially because we want to be the most effective in these meetings, we should be thinking about who would be important voice to be at the table when we're having those discussions.
Yeah. So I know Rachel's looped in.
Rachel, she will be attending, but because we don't have agenda yet, it will depend on. Yeah.
Awesome. Looking forward to that, Waleed, and good upsell for the Collab Summit meeting.
Yeah.
Yep. We just gained a few more attendees, that's for sure. Awesome. Well, we have about 9 minutes left. I want to, or 8 minutes now. Good job filling time, even with the light agenda. It's like we like talking to each other. It's crazy. So there was one other ticket I just wanted to raise some visibility on and get some opinions on, which Tierney, you opened up last week. I think from a spin out discussion on in website redesign.
Yep.
This is 475 over in ComCom. Tierney, you want to give a quick 2-minute brain dump on what it is and a little bit of history and ideas?
Yeah. So this is from a website redesign meeting, as Adam said. In the mockups, there's a carousel with like who uses Node.js, and there's I think 5 companies listed there. I think actually all of them do. I don't think that was intentional though. I think those are just logos. Yep,
that was drag and drop from a blueprint or like wireframe framework I had. So,
but yeah, that kind of raises an interesting point. That also, it's nice to know who uses Node for multiple reasons. One, there's the foundation level of who can we reach out to for to do case studies and things like that. There's the kind of project marketing side of it, where we can if they allow us, we can put their logos on our website, and it's nice to get that kind of validation that yes, these companies trust this project, you should too. And then at another level, I know we've talked about a job board style thing in the past. This could be a relatively low barrier to entry for that, in terms of not actually having to maintain a list of jobs or anything like that, or set that up, but just allow companies to have that as part of that metadata. So people, if they wanted to find jobs in Node.js and wanted to look at companies that were actively looking for that, they could maybe look at these job links, because every company has their own job board on whatever site, Lever or Greenhouse or whatever. So that's another thing that could kind of be beneficial from this. Additionally, it's just nice to kind of have that context. And I think approaching this in its own repo and just having it as kind of like a list is a good approach. Have a single purpose resource for this that we can kind of go and share around, if one, to get people to engage with it, and two, to kind of show, hey, look, these are people using Node.js. Because I mean, I still get the question of, is Node.js a real tool or a good tool? So it's nice to be able to point to something without much effort and having to kind of do conjecture. So yeah, there's multiple reasons for this.
Yeah, and I linked at the bottom a few historical conversations. So there was one old issue for Node people everywhere, and then Zivi and linked to the current user survey report, which is also similar. And I'll be back in 1 minute. I'm sorry,
Thierry, one concern I have related to this one is actually it's not who uses Node, it's who does not use Node. So the list is going to be extremely huge.
Yeah.
We are better off keeping a list of who does not use Node.
And so, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, honestly, I don't think that's detrimental, though. I don't think like everyone is going to pile in at once. I think this will be like, there will be certain times where there's an influx, sure. But I don't think I think it'll be more of a trickle rather than like a waterfall. Well, I guess that's not waterfall is a different thing that actually applies to what I'm sharing. It's going to be more like a trickle rather than a river.
I think if we can just have a Google form and roll it out to our social media and Medium collection, people could just fill it. And the better question would be, if you use Node, would you allow us to use your logo on any of the Node.js Foundation resources? They would just fill up the name of the company and their press kits or assets or whatnot. And when we need it, we could just go to that Google sheet.
Didn't we have this already with the foundation website, Tierney?
Yeah, there's a thing there where people were putting what they built with Node.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a company,
Okay.
but
because I think what's more compelling here is like gonna be like, I don't really care who uses Node because as you all said, it's more who isn't. But to me, it's the significant stories around how they're using Node. And so it would be cool to see, I think, by like category of how they're using Node. Or like, but I'm just wondering, that's why I think the original intention of the foundation application was so that we would almost get mini case studies to talk it, because that's what we all care about, right? Like, it doesn't really, okay, cool. Like, this would be a laundry list of all the places we could look for jobs. That's great. But even then, how are you using Node? It's different if you're just doing it for some internal tooling or if you're building your entire application with it. It's like, it would matter to me which type of engineering work that I've been doing. And I know I had that problem and I was like, so yeah, I think that I'm wondering how we would, or is this just like you're saying, like the template needs to be worked on as to what we would be asking?
do you mean me or Aman?
Both of you.
So the problem I have with, you know, the approach, the thing I don't like about how the approach the foundation took, like how that ended up, is it largely ended up being open source projects, which I think is great. But that's not really useful. And then you have to sort through, like if you're looking for companies that are using Node in a certain way, then you have to look for like through open source projects and products and figure out which ones are products. And then also from there, go and figure out which ones are just trying to get more awareness versus which ones are like actually a use case. Because what ended up happening is this just became like a, you know, backlink for people to kind of try to get more awareness to their thing, which, you know, that's great. I think that's a useful and cool thing. But at the same time, it's not like for the intent that we're trying to poke at here in both cases, whether it's just the company list, it's like the job description or job link, and then the other part of like what are they using compared to, you know, what are they using, and like the company side being kind of secondary.
Yeah,
it's just ended up being self-promotion.
So there are two use cases trying to be filled here by having companies cited on a site. One is, hey, look, we're big enough to be used by big companies, come love us. And the other is, look at all these cool and innovative ways that companies of every size are using us. How could you use us? And a lot of companies, yeah, no worries, Tracy. I actually have a hard stop too. A lot of companies manage it by just controlling who's on the homepage. So like you have your brag sheet of big company logos where you've gotten permission from the legal department to use, and like you got to jump through more hoops, and then you have all the startups that really don't care as long as they get a backlink. So we probably need something similar, and I guess the question is around how we intake those applications, especially since you know, we're gonna probably lose the dedicated foundation site for Node.js Foundation at some point, and I wouldn't expect OpenJS to host customer testimonials for Node for, you know, it's a large project in the foundation, but yeah, maybe not. We'll have to see. But there's also no good reason why it shouldn't live on the nodejs.org site. Bye, Tracy.
I got to drop too.
Yeah, I do as well. Anyway, we'll keep, I guess, consider this a CTA for, we're going to keep iterating on this probably in website redesign or perhaps in outreach or but starting out with website redesign to figure out how to make this process smooth. I actually have a hard stop at 10 as well, y'all. But thanks for the awesome discussion. And I cannot wait to see you all in a month. It's gonna be so much fun.
Woo!
Cool, or most everybody, and I'll be shedding a tear for everybody who can't make it. But awesome meeting, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam.